Welcome to Higher Ed Athletics. Today I'm joined by Jamie Boggs, the Vice President of Athletics at Grand Canyon University. Jamie, thanks for coming back on Higher Ed Athletics.
Thanks for having me back again. Happy to be here.
Well, there's a quote that I wanted to read to start to kind of kick off our conversation from you. It said, "When I first came to GCU, I thought my role was to show GCU how to become a Division One university. Instead, it was more that GCU taught me what a Division One university should be. If people really knew about Grand Canyon University, it would be transformational for our industry." You were on the podcast 4 years ago, and a lot of that conversation focused on growth. I said, the consistent leadership, same president, a lot of the same cabinet. You've obviously grown into this role even more. I mean, do you think people know about Grand Canyon University now, I'd say?
I think they do, but I still think we're trying to catch up the level of success we've had as a university and an athletics program. I think that PR still hasn't reached what it should. We have won a lot of championships. We won 76 in the last uh, 14 years being Division One, and gone to the NCAA tournament, advanced in the tournament. But just as a university, we are one of the largest private, if we're not the largest, we're one of the largest private Division One universities in the country. I'm not sure people know that yet. We are a national university, but I'm not sure that the actual how much we've grown and how much we've continued to our success as an athletics program is known to the level that I think it should be.
Yeah, and that was actually what we ended our conversation 4 years ago. It was we're trying to keep up with the university because back then you guys were building like 12 buildings in 2 years. And so, I still have not made it to a basketball game. My best friend lives in Phoenix now, and so I have another built-in excuse because I have a place to stay, I have a person to hang out with, bring to a
And you
little
have tickets
game.
now.
Exactly. Yes, you offered tickets last time. I just got to make my way there. We'll have to do a Higher Ed Athletics road trip. I just took one to Florida and back. Had tons of stops. I've got to get to the West Coast and do that. But yeah, the I want to talk about your LinkedIn strategy. It's probably more social strategy, but I just noticed it on LinkedIn. So I saw a LinkedIn video where it shows your department praying together, worshiping together, and serving together. A lot of videos you've been putting out, but maybe talk about the Christian element of GCU and the Lopes Athletic Department and how it helps guide you all through this decision making that really has not stopped since we last spoke.
Yeah, we are one of the largest Christian universities in the country, and I think we're different than a lot of universities. You don't have to be Christian to be here. Uh, we're missional. Do you walk the walk of Jesus? Do you embrace who we are as a university? And we're accepting of everyone, and it's different. And so our faith is it's the fabric of who we are. It's in everything we do. I mean, you see us pray before games. We'll pray after games. We pray before meetings. But it's beyond that, even in how we operate as a university, the way our president leads our meetings and how we make our decisions, it's always centered back on Christ. And so there's just an amazing environment, amazing culture when you come to GCU and you can feel it right away. A lot of companies that hire our students, they'll tell you there's just something different about GCU students. And it's that culture of it's the Christ-centered culture, it's the culture of service. It's part of who we are as a university, and you see that as our students graduate. It's very transformational. And I think we're putting out some great Christian leaders throughout the state and within the country. So it's just who we are as a university.
Yeah, it's probably about a lot why people don't seem to leave. I mean, the university, people are sticking around. You have a great president as a leader. If I was able to relocate from the central Indiana area, that'd be on the short list of the places my wife would be like, yes, go work there. So you all created a cool culture. It's Christ-based, and it's been fun to see. And you've also been putting out these day in the life of an AD videos, and they're even inspired me to do something similar. So I am going to, I think I've already talked about it, but so I'm going to Toledo next week. We're recording this on Halloween. I didn't show up in costume today because I don't know where it's going to be released. But yeah, I'm going to Toledo for their Maction game against Northern Illinois. Going to be following Brian Blair around and kind of put some content out like that. That's just kind of an idea I had, and he agreed to do. But a lot of that inspiration came from seeing your day in the life videos. So, what was the thought process, and what are the goals behind these? Because for one, they seemed fun, but it also, and this kind of fits the GCU mission, is it really humanizes you as also a mom and a wife, and blending all those together. So maybe just talk about those videos.
Now, there's a couple things, we have to look a, a few years down the road and see how people are consuming content and how people are getting information. I don't think people are getting information now the way they used to. And so we have to really adapt to that. And it's also how does that younger generation, how do people connect now? And they connect with you through social media. It's amazing how much people are more willing to reach out, how I have student athletes that feel a little bit more comfortable meeting with me or connecting with me because they've seen me on social. And it's just how people, it's just changed so much. I'm not sure people read as much, off news sites as they do getting their information from social. And so that has changed. I don't think people necessarily like to hear from organizations anymore. They like to hear from people. They want a connection with the person. And so I felt like we have to adapt to the way people get their information, the way they perceive organizations, and that's through an individual. Now, talk about prayer. I had to pray about this because to do social media and to create content, you really have to want to put yourself at the center of attention. And I'll automatically do that because of my role, but to actually take steps to put yourself in front of others, I got to pray about that. And what I always thought is, okay, if I can do something that really tells a story about GCU, that serves GCU, but also helps people that are aspiring to be athletic directors, maybe people, working moms, anything that could help others. That was always my goal in posting the social media. And I really am so appreciative of the comments that people make, and they'll send me notes or just this has inspired me so much. This has helped me. There's not really anything out there that really shows you what it's like to be an athletic director. I get a lot of those comments, and so it really helps me keep going. It's a lot of work. It is fun, but it's a lot of work, and I have much more appreciation for content creators than I've ever had. But it is a lot of work that I end up doing late at night and on the weekends to make sure that I can get it done. But when I hear people saying that it helps them, it keeps me going and motivated to continue to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I do. That's a big reason why I keep doing the podcast is you get that feedback of it helping people, and you know, I've never thought really seriously about stop doing it because it's fun. I learn a lot, but whenever you know you're helping people, I think it's that's helpful too, right? And mine is a little easier because I just sit here and ask questions, and then I hopefully don't have to do too many edits, post it out in the world. But you were actually doing like follow me around and doing edits to your videos, so it's been cool to see. We see that with some ADs where they do like from the desk letters or like Michael Kelly used to do a podcast at USF. I'm sure he's probably thinking about doing the same thing if he's not at Navy. But I kind of like that approach. But what do you think of more? What would you tell more ADs that maybe it's low hanging fruit to be out there on LinkedIn, kind of putting their face out there because if you think about LinkedIn, I know you're doing it everywhere too, but like LinkedIn, you can reach potential business sponsors, business owners, ticket goers. Like, it just feels like it's low-hanging fruit. A lot of ADs aren't even on LinkedIn or they're just not active. And it seems like now is the time. Maybe you'd want people to kind of see you kind of be out there for your brand too, right?
I definitely agree. I think, and there's something different about LinkedIn. You don't get some of the negativity and some of the, people are keyboard warriors on some of the other platform and will say, be very opinionated. But I do think that LinkedIn is much more supportive community. But again, it's also just, there's so many people that are aspiring to do what we do. And there's only what 350 Division I institutions. There's not a lot of jobs out there as Division I athletic directors. And so if there's any way that we can provide and kind of give back, then it's the way to do it. It used to be that people would just reach out and try to set up a meeting and in person. And I still have people that do that, but I think it's less. I really think that people consume so much of their information off social media now. So again, to me, I see it as a way of giving back and paying it forward to the people for the people that helped me throughout all of my career, and in a platform that I think for the most part is a positive community platform.
Yeah, speaking of, I've been asked to go speak to a local sport management class specifically because the professor saw like the podcasts and the interviews, and they want to talk it to people about who want to be athletic directors, which a lot of people start off with that and they don't really know what direction that might take them into college athletics or high school athletics. And I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, but any piece of advice I should tell that class, I might even clip it. This is a class of University of Indianapolis sport management students have been asked to talk to them in a couple of weeks about how I study athletic directors. But any advice to put out there? I'll obviously go watch your videos, but what would be your kind of advice for them if I show them this?
For aspiring athletic directors, it's one getting your foot in the door at any possible place you can. It might not be an area that you might not necessarily look to go to. There's always opportunity in ticket sales, and sales is usually the easiest way to get your foot in the door, and that's if it might not be your end goal. But once you get your foot in the door and get that experience on your plate, every doors just start to open up. You start to make connections, you start to make those networks. And of course, once you get there, you've got to make as many positive relationships as you can. And it's a small industry. Everyone kind of knows everyone to an extent, or at least someone who knows another. It's a very connected industry. So just getting into the industry is the first step. Um, I always looked at it as how do I best serve in my role, no matter what that role is. And ultimately, I think people notice that and they'll notice you and you'll continue to move up in your career. But you also have to be willing to move anywhere, which I know you and I have talked about. But
Yep.
especially when you start out in your career, you kind of have to be willing to move because again, there's 350, just over 350 Division One programs. So if that's truly what you want to do, you have to be willing to make that sacrifice. And a lot of people are willing to. So it's a very competitive industry. I would
Yeah.
also say just whatever you can do to stay in front of this changing landscape. And I know you've been in this industry for a while. The landscape has changed so much faster. I mean, it's like on warp speed now. It's always changing. Everything always changes, but it's been changing so quickly in the last 3, 4 years, and it's going to continue to change drastically. And so just staying on top of what's actually happening in the industry, whether it's by, reading, you got to get on X or whatever you need to do to stay in front of it. But whatever you can do to stay in front of what's going on in the industry, I think is always going to be beneficial to you as you get into the industry.
Yeah, I'll be telling them to subscribe to the D1 ticker because
That's
a
right.
lot of times they also are gracious enough to put the Higher Ed Athletics podcast in there, but it's really good content. But yeah, that's great advice. And then, yeah, it is true. It's also okay to not want to move. You have to be
Yep.
like, so I was an assistant AD at a very young age. I was like, okay, I could do this. I had my first kid. I was like, I really don't even want to move my children away from their grandparents. And you have to make tough decisions, and it's not right or wrong generalization, but I chose to stay, and I knew that took me out of the running of pretty much ever becoming an AD. So I study you all instead. But yeah, that's a good advice for that class because you were at Georgia, you were in Georgia before this, and then you've been at GCU for like over 10 years now. But those are two very different regions of the country.
Yes.
And so yes, you have to be willing to move. So thank you for me putting you on the spot to kind of clip that, make my talk a little easier, I think, in a
Sure.
couple of weeks. So. I want to talk about the Mountain West. So it's no news that Grand Canyon, you made headlines with the move to the Mountain West, and even more when the timeline got accelerated. So can you walk me through now what went into that decision, why it was right now for Grand Canyon to kind of join the Mountain West?
Yeah. So fortunately, we have had a good amount of success with the support of our university because of the support of our university, and so we had a lot of opportunities in with different conferences. And when the opportunity for the Mountain West presented itself with Commissioner Navarez, we had to really seriously look at it. I mean, if you look at who's in the Mountain West. It's national brands, passionate fan bases. It's a high level of competition. Those are all the things that were really important to us. We really appreciated our time and loved our time in the WAC. We were ready to kind of go to that next level and that next level of competition. And so, if you look at the Mountain West, it's interesting. I mean, almost all of their sports are in the top 15 of all the conferences, and really in the top 10. It's a really, really strong conference in multiple sports. So that on top of the fact that they, again, the passionate fan bases and the brands, we felt like the Mountain West was the right place. And we're really thrilled. It's such a collegial, it's a great conference with great leadership.
Yeah, you match colors too, and so that's always good. But
Right.
I think about it from an institution-based decision. You're not a state public school that is, focused on just their region. Obviously, you're going to serve your region, but I mean, you really can go into these markets and tell that story of, we're a Christian-based university and kind of get their eyes on it. And I mean, as of right now, quite the revival going on in places that, that can be very opportunistic to kind of spread the gospel through GCU too. And so I imagine that's going to be some people, they may not have ever heard of GCU in the Mountain West regions. And as weird as that is, but I've got to take my industry kind of knowledge out. And if I'm just a normal person, I don't know that they would know where Grand Canyon University is or their athletic department. But yeah, it seems like a great opportunity. That you all are hitting the ground running too. I mean, because we're here in October, going into November. I know you're ready for basketball season, and I'm just kind of thinking, do you think the Havocs are ready for the increased national attention on TV, and do you think the national TV is ready for the Havocs?
Good questions. The Havocs are always ready. They are just an incredible. I really still believe that they're the best student section in the country, best student body in the country, and they plan early. I mean, they put a lot of work into it. They start planning well. Um, uh, in the previous year and well into the summer. And so they have their themes ready to go. They know which games are nationally televised. They've always got a plan in place. And so they are absolutely ready. Now, whether everyone else is ready for the biggest party in college basketball, I think you don't really get it until you really see it. And it's just an environment that it's like none other I've been in. And I've been in a lot of college basketball environments. It's so different. It's so unique. It truly is a big party with a basketball game going on and a good basketball game going on. But we just had USC here recently and kind of made similar comments to when we had Louisville here a few years ago. Just the comments that it's the craziest environment that they've ever been in. I think one of the student athletes from the other team called it a frat party. It's like a frat party with the basketball game going on, but it's family friendly. It's like a family friendly frat party if that exists. So no, we're really excited for everyone to see the Havocs. They are just such a positive, fun, energetic group, and it's going to be really fun for the country to see and for the Havocs as well.
It almost comes off of like everybody's getting used to the Savannah Bananas, but it is real baseball on the field. But this is a real good basketball team. Like, you all are always really good. So yes, it's a cool environment, but you're still seeing very competitive, top-notch basketball. There's this professor at IU Indianapolis, David Pierce, and he will text me like 3 or 4 times a season of just the Lopes, and he's obsessed with the Lopes, and he'll just be like, "Look what they did! Look at the crowd!" Or like, and it's just so funny. It's like, I know this place. Like, you're not catching me off guard. I was like, I understand what they do, and it is very fun. But I wonder how many people across the industry also study your guys' home environment because especially for a school that doesn't have, if basketball is like the main thing, we're seeing the growth of women's basketball. I mean, I think a lot of people maybe could learn a thing or two. I'm sure people have come and visit. I know ADs visit places and try to get ideas, but has anyone ever actually asked you for advice on how you all do it or come to see?
All
You
the
don't have to
time.
name them. You don't have to name them,
All
but
the time, and you would be surprised at what schools come, and we get it all the time. But
well, you can name them if you want them.
I don't want.
I'm
Well,
just
let
kidding.
me just put this. It's very established universities that have come and have asked us about our game day environment. They've sent people to look at our game day environment, and it's always interesting because we try to explain it's hard to replicate because part of it is our culture.
Yeah,
A lot
culture of the
of
students.
actually
Yeah.
A lot of it is our culture. We have this culture of community at our university that our athletics program aligns with. Even our student athletes, we say all the time, we're not the stars of this community, we're a part of this community. And there's just this desire to serve one another. And how do I serve you? It's by coming to your game and showing you my support. And the flip side, our student athletes will try to find ways to go out in our um, throughout campus and find ways to connect and support other events around campus. So it's really unique. And then on top of that, the game day environment, we look at all of our games as events, like
Mhm.
major events for the university. It's not just a game day, it's a university event. And so there's so many people, from the people that work in the arena, our videographers, our spirit programs, our Havocs, our marketing people, our sponsorship people. There are so many seats at the table when we talk about what we do for our game day environment. It's a really collaborative thing. So I think sometimes you might have an AD or university that puts it on marketing person, in-game person, make this just like GCU. Well, there's a lot of people that are involved in GCU and driving in the same direction. So we do get a lot. I say the same thing. It's hard to replicate, but we would love for everyone to have the kind of game day environment that we have.
Are there any natural rivalries that you expect from the Mountain West, or is that something we just kind of have to watch it happen organically?
Yeah, I think there's such passionate fan bases in the Mountain West that I think it'll just happen naturally. I mean, proximity always plays a big role, so I can see a UNLV or New Mexico just on proximity. We can have fans going back and forth, and New Mexico's fan base, they're just amazing. I mean, the fan bases in the Mountain West are amazing, but I think that'll happen naturally, just with two sets of from each of very passionate fan bases.
So this isn't a gotcha question, but it is very much a football centric conference still, and I think that might have surprised some people about you all making that kind of entry. Is there going to be like more of a pressure to maybe start football one day? Which I know you have experienced that in the in the past, but like, has that been anything that anyone you has even kind of brought up?
I've got my buddies on social media that like to make comments at any time, and it's great. It's all in good fun. And nothing's ever off the table. But with the way the landscape is changing, the way NIL is, the way with the House settlement and potentially the SCORE Act passing, I think now is even more of a time for us to continue to invest the sports that we have. I think there's a lot of opportunity for us being a basketball school. As you mentioned, women's basketball's growing, volleyball's growing like crazy, softball's growing like crazy. They're all growing, and so there for us now is in the short term, in the near future. Now's the time for us to continue and invest in the sports that we have. But I will always say nothing's ever off the table.
Yeah, and 4 years from now, when you're back on again, we'll have to, well, maybe you'll all be starting one. But no, you are right. I mean, it's good to be nimble too. Like you don't have this huge commitment to 120, players in a giant coaching staff, and we're all seeing the how crazy having a football program can be here in October, and what that can mean for athletic directors. So I think it's good to be nimble. But it is interesting because you won't usually see basketball centric go into that. But kind of shifting gears to head coach hires and evaluations. So this type of question is brought to you by AD Vantage, a new partner of Higher Ed Athletics. And I just kind of curious, what is your approach to a head coach hire? I didn't do my research to see how often you have to do a hire, so you can kind of work this into evaluation instead if you want. But what kind of type of background and experience do you typically look for? Is it sport specific? You look for a head coach, lower level, okay, things like that. Just kind of maybe walk me through step A through Z, and you can use a sport specific if you want. But like that opening comes up, what is Jamie Boggs doing next?
But there's certain things that will continue to stay the same, and those are that we will always be data driven. We're not gonna guess as much as we can, as much as data that we can have, we will use. So we're always going to look at wins and losses, what conferences, what were their budgets. We're going to look at data like the transfer portal, were there people transferring in and out? All those things matter, and we all will always at first and be data driven.
Do you
Secondly,
put conference, sorry, but do you put conference record? Do you think ADs need to look more at conference record versus all record season, or is there one that's more important than the other, or is it really just blending the two win-loss records?
Conference record matters, but you also have to look at their budget within the conference. You know what you love to see is when you see someone that has maybe not the not top budget in the conference, but they are always at the top of the conference. Now, and this is where I'm saying that things change. That's the data that we had always looked at because we were transitioning from Division 2 to Division 1, and we were in a different place. So you kind of want people that really know how to get the most out of what they have. They're not going to make excuses. And that's how our university is. We're a no excuse university. I mean, no one thought we would go from 900 students to 25,000 students in less than 10 years, but we have. And so we want people that they're just going to find a way to win, but win the right way. I think it's changed now, though. Now you kind of need to know that coaches have experience with NIL, that they know how to generate revenue, that they know how to handle the transfer portal, they know how to manage it, and that can win right away. That they're really, really, I mean, we always want coaches that are well connected, but you've got to be able to win right away and to navigate the transfer portal really well. There was a time when it was all about culture, and we want people who, can after 3 or 4 years, you get your team and you got the culture set up. Well, no, you got to get culture now. Like the culture is as soon as you step onto campus with a whole new team. And so it's changed. It's changed. So the data we look at, we still look at wins and losses. That still matters. You still have to have results and be a proven winner. But there's other things we look at now that have just changed because of the way the landscape has changed.
I want to shift to the Arizona's Family Broadcast Partnership. Obviously, this is a local thing, so nobody knows what I'm talking about probably, unless someone from Phoenix area is listening in or in Arizona. But walk me through this Arizona's Family Broadcast deal. What is it, and how did that come together, and what expectations do you have from it?
Yeah, we are really excited about this partnership with Arizona's Family. And if for those who aren't from there, it's if you're from Phoenix, it's one of the most well-known broadcast channels. There's a very much an alignment with who we are brand-wise, very family friendly, very positive. They're very collaborative. But it's just if you're from Phoenix, you know Arizona's Family. It's the channel you watch, and it's just positive vibes always. And they're very forward thinking, they're very strategic, and they've really made a lot of effort to really build their sports program. And they just created it's just a few years ago, a new network that's just sports, their Arizona's Family Sports Network, in addition to their other channels. And so, they've got a lot of vision, and we wanted to be a part of it. And it's incredible how quickly that the sports network has grown. But they've reached 2.8 to 3, I've heard anywhere from 2.8 to 3.5 million households. And so the opportunity for us to get that casual viewer that maybe not necessarily yet a Lopes fan, but could be, but that kind of exposure that we hadn't really had before. That's an opportunity that we really wanted to capitalize on. And it was even better that we have such an alignment with values. So far it's been great. We've really quadrupled our viewership since being on Arizona's Family and associated with the channel. It's the Phoenix Suns are also on that channel. Phoenix Rising, our local soccer team. So just that connection, that connection with all the sports on this channel, and it being such a well-known station in Phoenix has been a huge bonus ad for us.
Yeah, because if I remember correctly, the Phoenix Suns kind of made some waves of like making some people upset, networks that they were going to do this deal because it was really good for the ownership to reach the community. You have to pay here in Indianapolis if you want to watch every Pacer game, like for a specific channel and network. So it seemed like a really good way, and that'll also bring in people to watch you. What all sports are on it, and then how's that going to mesh kind of with the Mountain West programming?
Yeah, so this is what's so great. I think a lot of local program, they typically have your football and maybe your men's basketball, maybe a couple of women's basketball there, but we've got pretty much every team sport on it. So we had most of our volleyball games on those networks. We've had men's and women's soccer, and we will have the men's and women's basketball games that aren't picked up nationally on these channels, as well as a lot of softball and baseball games.
That's
So
awesome.
I mean, it's not common, and because of this new sports network that they've really built really quickly, we have the opportunity to have all of our sports, many of our sports, broadcast throughout the state of Arizona.
Do you all do any, are there any plans to do like coaches shows on there too, or is it strictly just kind of streaming the games?
Right now, it's just the games. We've talked about those things and whether or not we want to go to podcasts, which is a lot how people consume what, kind of go through our radio network. But right now, we're sticking with just broadcasting our games.
Awesome. Yeah, so IU Indianapolis, formerly IUPUI, which I've got their former, yeah, that's my undergrad institution. So for those watching, that's like the 50 years ago jacket from IUPUI. They're doing, I think, a few men's basketball games on like the local channel here, but I really do think it's an opportunity for schools to at least start that conversation and get something local. I mean, the reach, especially anytime you can get viewership on a family-friendly thing, especially, but people are be looking for that type of content, and you kind of will get the chance that they can grow up with the Lopes. And so I'm really hoping IU Indianapolis, being a fan from an alum, I really hope they get more channels or more games on those channels because I think every city is going to have some type of network that is looking for some local broadcasts. And so, very cool for you all. I'm going to tell my friend in Phoenix start watching Lopes games and
Please do.
have his like 2-year-old daughter start watching the Lopes basketball games for you. See if I can get her to go to GCU one day. Um, I want to shift to back. So we talked about, you gave some generous advice for a class I'm going to speak to, but I kind of want to kind of come to the close about future of the AD position for people that are senior level administrators. So I do this D1 AD hiring trends and tracker on my website because I'm a nerd and so I have it broken down by subdivision. So selfish plug, hireathletics.com. But I want to kind of read some of the D1 non-football data. So about AD hires, and then I'll probably just get your reaction from it. But I also just wanted to share it so that people can either see or hear me say it. So since January of 2020, there's been 57 AD hires at non-football D1 schools. 14 were females, 14 were internal promotions, 18 came from other AD positions, 14 were deputy ADs, and 10 senior associates. 22 came from other non-football D1 schools. You only had 7 come from FBS power schools and 5 from the group of 5 schools. So it's very much a lot of them are, basketball centric hires that they're coming from, which makes sense. Going back to just in the last year and a half, there's been 14 hires and 11 of them came in 2024, which was interesting. 6 were females, 0 internal promotions. 4 were sitting ADs and 7 were deputy ADs. So one thing I've noticed, I can't even think of the number. I'd have to scroll and look at it again, but there's been very few female AD hires. But if any subdivision is kind of sticking out of who is still, it is the non-football D1 school. So I just threw a lot of data about out there. But do you have any reaction to thinking about what you see with your own network? Sticking with D1 non-football, what have you kind of seen as trends of what people are maybe looking for or what they should be trying to build their skill set up to kind of lead a D1 non-football school?
Yeah, I think it's actually across the board as Division One, but you really have to be able to, I mean, you truly are the CEO. It's funny, I hear all these kind of new things and news people and people that aren't in the industry saying, oh, the new AD with all the revenue and all these things has to be a CEO. And I'm kind of like, you're like 2 decades behind. We've always had to be CEOs of our program. And so it's still the same. I mean, you got to be able to generate revenue, got to be able to manage the revenue, allocate resources, and make those tough decisions. Got to be able to hire and know when to make those changes. And now I think it's really important you know how to negotiate really, really well. I've negotiated more in the last year, in the last probably 2 years than I ever have in my entire career.
You're a lawyer by trade, though, right?
I am. You know what? My mom is always right. She said, you need to go to law school. I wanted to go to business school, but she said, go to law school. But it is amazing how much I do use my legal skills and how transferable that is now more than ever. But really, I honestly just contracts and negotiations more than I ever have because of NIL and just because of when you're trying to get all these new revenue generation opportunities, you're weeding through a lot of contracts. But I think it's same across the board. There might be more now, more of it. But we've always had to do it. It's just we've had to do it now. We have to do it now at an even higher level. So,
Well,
go ahead.
Well, so it's interesting as you started saying about the CEO. So I just interviewed Rob Higgins, who made news as like the first CEO of athletics in the country. The board chair said that, to his credit, he didn't come up with that title, but he said on the podcast that just released 10 days ago. But he had said, some of my best friends are doing this work as CEOs of their own athletic programs. It's just they're called different. And I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, like everyone. I mean, I didn't say yeah, but it is true. I mean, whenever you think his job is no different than your job, it's they have different. Everything's a little different, but like you all very much are the CEOs, and I think everyone in the industry's known that. But years ago we shifted this. The number two became the deputy. It used
Yes.
to be like everything was a seniors or a senior associate. 20 years ago, was everybody was assistant AD or associate. It's just and now it's like executive senior or executive deputy. So the titles all change. The job of the leader is very much the same job. I think it's just it's modernizing, right?
Yes, I mean it seems like it's a PR move more than anything, but it keeps I keep hearing, well, now there's just so much money generated, there's so much revenue that you need a CEO. And I'm kind of like, where do you think that revenue came from? It was the person that the ADs that, and the universities that
Yeah.
already worked together to build that. So but yeah, we've always had to be the CEOs. Anyone who hasn't seen it, you probably weren't making the right hire in the first place if you didn't weren't looking for someone with the skill set of a CEO.
Well,
So
I
it's an
won't
executive management role.
I won't mention the name of the AD, but it was very much an old school AD that talked to me recently and said, I was like, what do you think about like this change of like, oh, you've got to be a revenue or generator and fundraiser, and that this like it's just more of an emphasis. And he's like, I've this person's been an AD forever. And he's like, I was raising revenue 20 years ago, and guess what? That was what I was told to do. Like it's almost like lulled people to sleep. And it's like, oh yeah, you got to be a revenue. Like that's
Yeah.
always been part of his job, is what he's telling me. It's like it's almost like people forgot that during COVID or something. I don't know,
Yeah.
and all the legal regulatory things, but like that's very much been, yeah, there has been changes in ups and downs of like backgrounds of ADs, but
Mhm.
once you're in that role, you're very much gotta come up with partnerships and revenue and fundraising. So yes, I agree. I want to end it with a scenario. Okay, so trying to do more scenarios based on who the listener is. So if you were still a deputy AD right now
Mhm.
and wanted to be an AD and you were close, you were being contacted by search firms, your AD knows that you're trying to become an AD and that you're close. In what ways would you be preparing outside of your day job for a specific school's interview process? Meaning, the reason I shifted this question to a scenario, and you kind of mentioned it earlier, everyone knows that the best advice is to do the best job at the job you have, and you'll be discovered on that. But I'm thinking to how do people prepare? A lot of people use the D1 dossiers. I put out some things called HEA briefings that looked at voting record and like who your leaders in the area were. But thinking about if you go through an interview process today, what kind of things would you be preparing for? Whether it's an AD binder, a philosophy. I mean, what would you be doing to kind of stick out as you're going into these searches for some of the openings?
Yeah, I mentioned before that you really have to research and show that you truly understand the landscape, and then be able to show the vision for what's going to happen 2 to 3 years down the road. So when you're preparing, whatever you're preparing to present when you're interviewing for that job, it's not only this is what's happening now, but this is what's going to happen 3 years from now. So here are the steps that I'm going to take to make sure that we are set up for success 3 years from now. You have to be able to see around the corner. And to be able to do that, you really have to understand the landscape. You do have to do a little bit of legal reading, the House Settlement, SCORE Act, SAFE Act, all these things you do really have to understand. And really figure out, well, how is that going to impact the way I run the business of college athletics over the next 3 years. And so everything has to be forward looking and not just this is what I'm doing now to address what the industry is now. It's changing way too quickly. I also do think you have to know, and it sounds crazy because I wouldn't have said this 5 years, but you really, as an AD, have to understand social media, because a lot of times you're hiring a lot of young people in those roles, and social media is marketing now. It is marketing, it is sales. And so you have to have an understanding of how it works, how the algorithms work, how to stay in front of the algorithms, because it's just not the same as it was. People are not taking and consuming information, consuming about your organization, the way that they used to. So you always have to be staying in front of that. So it goes back to what I'm saying. I'm just talking maybe about a different area, but you have to be able to predict what's going to happen 3 years down the road and develop a plan for that.
Yeah, and I think institutional fit we're seeing is a very important aspect of it too, to know what you're. I've been starting to put out some individual videos on AD openings, and I accurately predicted Rob, and he thought that was funny. It was like 3 months before he got hired, but it made so much sense.
Yeah.
Getting ready to release kind of like what people that might be looking at a couple of the AD jobs like Charlotte and Austin P State. I think institutional fit is incredibly important. And the thing I'll end on, like, and I'm not an AD obviously, but I do think it's low hanging fruit to kind of go back to that social media and LinkedIn. Is there's two things in higher ed that's interesting. Like faculty members, no matter what rank you are, typically have a portfolio, or they have this like ongoing CV, or they have a website. I'm not saying deputies need to do that. Like, you want to be able to play it cool about like you're not trying to get out of here to get a job, but I do wonder if like LinkedIn Premium, and or just LinkedIn in general, like you can do, thought pieces on your own page. You can get found on like, you know, yes, go on some interviews, but even if it's just you putting your thoughts in a post on LinkedIn and you become this like thought leader, there are people out there like search firms and chiefs of staffs and presidents' offices that they're looking for that type of stuff, in my opinion. And you really could do yourself a favor by like, you know, thinking about things and almost like journaling. And, as a researcher, I really like uh, that you can study people's like in the history, everybody used to write. We could study their journals. And I've been thinking about how cool it would be if we just had like athletic directors, if we got to read some of their journals, right? Of like what they're thinking, how much you would learn. But I do think they're thought pieces for the modern deputy that wants to be an AD. Try to put yourself out there a little bit on LinkedIn, just maybe once a month or once every couple of weeks. If you're thinking about something, and obviously you're not going to give up information about your own department that's private, but like if you have thought processes on the industry, don't wait for a podcast to ask you to come on. But get out there and just put your thoughts out. And so I don't know what you would think about a deputy AD doing that, but that's just kind of my thoughts that I haven't really seen people do.
Yeah, I think it's a really good thought. I mean, a lot of people, that again, that's how they consume information. It's no longer, people don't read articles anymore. They want a 6 sentence, thought on a social media post. So I agree with you. And it is a way to get out there. It's always been, it has been, you gotta get your name out there by getting to know the search firms, by getting networking. But you're right, a lot of people, they know you through that, and they can get to know you through as a thought leader, and that kind of being your brand as a thought leader through what you see on social. And I do think people, I think everyone now, I mean, when I hire, I look at everyone's social media. I want to see how engaged they are and what they're doing. And it's not a requirement by any means. I also look for things that maybe they don't do right. So maybe I think that might be a little bit why some people are hesitant, because, what what attracts a lot of people on social media is kind of thoughts that are a little bit controversial. You got to pick a side. That's what
Mhm.
gets people interested. So I do think that's probably maybe some hesitation of some deputies and people in athletic programs. But I do agree with you that there is a way that you can build your brand of being a thought leader through posting kind of some of those things, but with very surgically chosen though.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Jamie Boggs, Vice President of Athletics at Grand Canyon University, the Lopes. Looking forward to basketball season, and just want to thank you for joining me on Higher Ed Athletics.
Thank you. Always have fun with you. Appreciate it.